Before Silverstone became synonymous with the British Grand Prix, it shared the honor of hosting with Brands Hatch every other year. But this small, compact, and hilly course is diametrically opposed to the open, flat-former airfield base. Expect a real challenge here as we get ready to watch Round 9 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Christian Duploy, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Built in a natural bowl, this place is great for spectators, so let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Brands Hatch. When popular British racing circuits get listed, this track just to the southeast of London often finds itself near the top. The extensive history of the venue has meant that many famous names in racing have ran laps here. But the stats make it sound deceptively simple, with the Grand Prix and Indy course having 9 and 6 turns respectively. Laps might be short, but they're also fast, and the corners are often a challenge to get right. As you'd expect, that means passing is quite difficult, with most drivers leaning towards sending one up the inside at Druids. You might occasionally see overtakes into the first corner, Paddock Hill Bend, but the blind apex and gigantic drop in elevation make that an errand for only the brave. Many of the corner names pay tribute to famous British drivers from the past decades, such as Hill, Surtees, Sterling, and Clark. In fact, the fame extends beyond the drivers, but to the cars as well, with this place seeing everything from Formula One to Formula Ford, touring cars, GT cars, motorcycles, and even rallycross. It's a gorgeously scenic venue where lush trees envelop the back half of the course, while the front half is mostly encapsulated inside a natural amphitheater. This makes it extremely popular with race fans who can see a majority of the circuit from many seating positions. With a great location near a major metropolitan hub, a spectator-friendly layout, and an experience that challenges drivers, you can see why this place remains abuzz with racing to this day. Definitely a classic in the British motorsport scene. This one's on my list of places I'd like to go, Joey.
Same here. It would be cool to get a ticket to this place. Brands Hatch Circuit, 9 turns, 2.301 miles in length. We are doing the full circuit here, and it's a little bit like a roller coaster ride, especially in the back half. But turn number 1, Paddock Hill Bend, is probably the trickiest corner on this entire place. The vehicle dynamics are doing everything, working against you and the track with it going downhill and off camber. Druids, turn number 2, is also an excellent passing opportunity, pretty much because of the mistakes out of the exit of turn number 1. And then I talked about the rest of the track, primarily Sector 3. I'm looking down there towards Westfield Bend, and then the last, call it half of the track, it has a ton of elevation change, and it really is a single-lane racetrack where the drivers are going up, down, left, and right through the backside here. It really is a fun racetrack to go and drive, and even more fun to watch these Lotus 49 cars go and race on.
Absolutely. And one thing that's been fun to watch is the points championship, because it has changed hands at the top. Now Seb Tixier, with his latest win, is ahead of Jorge Nieva by about 6 points. Togo Hisada in third with Nicola Kaki in fourth. So there's a lot of your kind of usual suspects up at the front. But Kevin Verbruggen has become a bit more commonplace lately here at the top, sitting in fifth ahead of Andreas Valenteus, who is here today, but we're expecting him to start to jump forward some more, because almost every single time he shows up, he tends to win. He's not far ahead of Cam Porter. Again, another bit of a surprise. Cam having a very consistent season out there, and just a few points ahead of Ove Trangray, Jason Clapper, and Gary Ho, where it really tightens up in the bottom half of the top 10. But let's take a look at the F2 championship as well.
Yeah, good points battle up front. Jonathan Jordan narrowly leading over Jan Steffen, only 7 points. Then a little bit of a gap back there to Mats Linden in third place, but you see it really tightens up really from third all the way to call it about sixth there, including Tobias Harnby, Roberto Pengrazzi, David Muse, and then another little bit of a gap to round out the top 10, which includes Thomas Willershausen, Tomas Tuba, Andres Bruno, and Sandeep Banerjee.
That takes us to the Nations Cup, and Spain is still on top there, unlike what we see in the Drivers' Championship. Singapore, which is kind of being led by the charge by the likes of Tixier, has jumped up to third now, and that is only a single point behind Italy, so that could easily change hands after today. The U.S. sitting in fourth ahead of Japan, where Togo Hisada has been having a bit of an up and down season, hence why we see Japan all the way down in fifth currently. Usually they're also fighting for the top spot in this championship. Keep your eyes peeled because this track is punishing. It could throw a real wrench in the mix in a number of these points battles. But speaking of today's race, Joey, why don't you run us down the race details?
Round 9 of 13 here this season. 24 laps around this Brands Hatch circuit. They are doing about, call it just under a minute 30 per lap out here. An open setup, which means you get to open up that garage tab. If the car isn't driving exactly how you need it to, go ahead, make some adjustments. Join the community forums, the Discord over there. They love to hand out the fast stuff, make sure everybody is up to speed. No spare cars, so if you pick up any damage, you got to live with it out there on the racetrack. Drive-through penalty at 17 incident points and a disqualification at 25 incident points. I do think that here at Brands Hatch, there's plenty of grass runoff, so you can drive off the racetrack without incurring too much damage. It's more just limiting those wheels from going banging into a guardrail, a tire wall, or a competitor.
And there's definitely some spots where the guardrails are very close to the edge of the track, so don't want to be going off at high speed around here. In the meantime, if you've been watching our channel and following this series and thinking you want to try that, well, you can. We've got a Black Friday sale for logging on to iRacing for existing members. You can get 25% off, but for new members, 50% off a year or 2-year memberships. So definitely worth trying to sign up. This is the best possible time to try and snag one, as it's the biggest deal that they've got all year long. Big thanks to iRacing for bringing that deal back and giving us a chance to get another chunk off of the cost of trying to race here in iRacing, which is already incredibly low compared to real racing. So what a great deal to get to experience all the thrills that you can get from motorsports. Looks like in qualifying, Adrius Valenteus has taken the top spot with his second lap. So he is now up ahead with Jorge Nieva finishing his second lap soon, along with Ove Trangrade. Could see a swap round, but all 29 drivers already have a time on the board, and impressively.
Let's see what this number 3 car does, though, because when he crosses the line, this will kind of qualify him up a little bit further. He is tracking to the good, and actually, see, time just ran out, so I don't think that lap actually counted. Did he sneak that in a 1:23.9 for fourth?
He did sneak it in, but it did not improve his position, as it looks like someone beat him to it. Meanwhile, that means our grid is set, and Adrius Valenteus, as we said, will start on the top spot. Will he convert that into a pole? He's going to have to fight off Seb Tixier, who starts next to him. Oye Zamaloa, great qualifying here, starting from P3. Nieva, as we said, only fourth today, with Togo Hisada also shockingly low for him, down in fifth. Ove Trangrade will be P6. Then it's Leo Sequeiro in the 7th spot, followed by Nicola Kaki in P8. Kevin Verbruggen will start in 9th, and Marco Salgado rounds out your top 10.
In 11th place, we've got Steve Morris. Next to him is going to be John Olsen in 12th. Ricardo Ruiz in 13th with Gary Ho 14th. Matthew Maudsley 15th. Laust Olsen 16th. Robert Plumley in 17th. Jan Steffen 18th. Bjorn Ackerman 19th. And Tobias Harnvey rounds out the top 20.
Thomas Tuba is then 21st, followed by Andre Bruno in at 22nd. Emilio Pradera in the 23rd spot. He'll be flanked by Mauro Nicoletti. And then Cam Porter's in the quarter century mark. David Muse starts 26th. Thomas Martin 27th. Felice Luca 28th. And Damian Struthers rounding out your 29-car fields. All right, so it's not the biggest field we've seen, but 29 is going to be plenty to keep them busy on a short lap like this one. And as you can, well, we will see once we get to our live pictures, it's pretty dark out there today. Going to be a cool track. Looks like they are getting ready to get going as the engines are revving. The green flag is out, and we head off down towards Paddock Hill Bend. Valenteus is going to get a good enough start that he'll be able to cover off Seb Tixier. Still a little side by side in behind them, but everybody setting up for the braking uphill into Druids.
This is a tricky corner, especially on those cold tires. You see Nieva around the outside trying to minimize any more track position loss. He's side by side with the number 4 of Togo Asada. They go through the exit of the corner, and they're still neck and neck, headed down towards what is turn number 5.
Nieva needs every point he can get. He's been trying for that championship season after season and has continued to come up short. It looks like he is going to beat Togo Hisada down into Hawthorne, but still, he is behind his new points leader, Seb Tixier, who's still up in second.
A little bit single file here through the first half of the field. I'm not surprised. This is where the racetrack really starts going up and down in terms of the elevation change. You see him plummet through that little bit of a compression and then up over a crest. These corners also, you cannot see all the way around them. You get maybe a glimpse of the entry to the apex, but you got no idea what's on the other side.
Yeah, thankfully, it looks like it's going to be clear going through, so no issues through the back half of the course. And first lap going to be led by Valenteus Tixier in second, Zamaloa sitting in third. And you're right, it is extremely single file here, even after only one lap. But this track can be a bit narrow, so I'm not too shocked at this.
No, I'm not too shocked at it either, and I'm also not too shocked at seeing Bjorn Ackerman is probably the biggest mover on that opening lap, up 3 positions. And you know what? I need to take that back because it's actually Cam Porter that went up +4 on that opening lap as we ride with Nikola Kaki in that bright green helmet, perfectly centered in that rearview mirror.
Yeah, that's impressive from the 20 car. Definitely making some good climbs. So Nikola sitting in P8. That's Leo Sequeiro just in front of him. And as a little help, it looks like, off to the side there. We'll see if...
I'm going to jump in here, Joe, because in real-world racing, it's not uncommon to have some stuff, make sure that you get a little extra good luck. And in fact, the Rum Bum guys that I used to associate with, they would get a little bit of holy water on that Porsche before. Just make sure it made it through the whole race.
I mean, we're not that far past Halloween, so yeah, maybe just kind of protect against the dark forces a little bit. Meantime, looks like Ove Trangrade is a little bit of the plug in his spigot. Oh, and he's actually going to slow down, or no, he's going to speed up. He's going to go past Togo Hisada as Leo Sequeiro is going to try to duck to the inside, coming down into Paddock Hill Bend. And can he get through? Big wobble from Togo Hisada, barely holding on to that car, almost getting into the dirt. He's going to lose 1 more, maybe 2 more spots around Druids.
This is a little unusual out of the driver from this white and red number 4. He's usually pretty much glued into the racetrack and very comfortable with his machine, but it seems like these opening few laps at Brands Hatch are kind of maybe throwing Togo Hisada for a little bit of a loop out there. He slipped all the way down to what is 8th place position, and he's actually got Kevin Verbruggen right on his tail. And you mentioned during that points rundown how good Kevin's doing this season.
Yeah, 9th place right now, but he's going to need a few more spots, I think, if he wants to have a good points day today. Nikola still under threat by Togo Hisada after managing to sneak by him. Not many places to pass here on the back half of the course, in amongst the trees, where finally they're going to emerge once they get around to the likes of Clark Curve, which is coming up now. That also a bit of a tricky one, Joey, with the way it has that little crest right in the middle of it.
I think that crest is actually what kind of threw Togo Hisada that little bit of a challenge that last lap there, because remember it was Trangrade that got by on the front straightaway, and I think it was just from that little bit of a mistake from Hisada coming out onto it. This circuit is just so tricky. It's fast in terms of the lap time, but there's almost no time to ever rest here either. So if you make one mistake, it can kind of feel like the ball is continuing to roll down the hill. You got to climb yourself out of that hole sometime.
It is absolutely stressful trying to race around here, especially in this car, which doesn't like those crests because it gets very light without any downforce to speak of on the car. Coming back up along Pilgrim's Drop once again. The front of this group is Leo Sequeiro this time in 6th position. He's starting to lose touch with Train Grade and Nieva up ahead. We got a replay. Haven't seen any major issues, but it looks like we missed one from David Muse, who just slides off into the gravel down at Sterling's.
It was turn number 8. I think that all of these corners have their own challenges, but this is that corner that we were just watching in the replay, and you see how much banking there is. There's a lot of camber, and it's also one of the, call it the more flatter corners in terms of elevation, so lots of times drivers will kind of overspeed the entry, knowing that compression is going to catch them in the middle of the corner.
Nicola still sees Togo filling those mirrors coming up to Paddock Bend, and Togo's going to show himself a little bit, but that's not going to get him the spot, at least yet. Nicola's going to go wide. He'll leave the door open coming up into Druids. Togo breaks as deep as he dares. He'll take the inside away. Job isn't completely done quite yet. Will we see Nicola slide up the inside? No, we will not. Togo getting himself back to 7th.
This is a little bit of a different challenge for Togo Hisada. We usually see him up at the front, right, fighting for the lead, and then if he's not there, it's usually from maybe contact and he's having to go through the entire field. This is a situation where he's firmly inside the top 10. He's got okay track position, but these cars that are around him, they have good pace. He is going to need to get past them in order to gather more points.
Use the little tiny slip up from Nicola, and he'll probably be tucking that away for later as Felice Luca. Let's see what happens to the Italian coming down into the infield section. Again, the rear just completely gets away from him, and a simple spin off into the grass that you mentioned earlier to save him.
These cars don't have downforce. Remember, they don't have those front wings or rear wings, so if you get in too fast into a corner, just usually going to continue that slide, and the cars are loose. That's what makes them so much fun to drive. That's why a lot of these racers are really attracted to the 49s, because you physically have to drive them. They have some character underneath it.
So now Togo sets his sights on Leo Sequeiro. Can't pull the same move this time up into Druids, as Leo was nice and solid coming down Paddock Hill Bend. And then out of Graham Hill, though, he's so close to him, but it's such a short spurt up into Surtees. He could maybe get him to go a little wide here, tries to square off the exit. I thought maybe he had gone in too deep, but it looks like he managed the corner.
I think what Hisada really needs to just kind of focus on doing it is laying the pressure onto these drivers right in front of him. I don't think that there's a huge, call it time delta difference between himself and the other drivers right around him. So if they can be forced into a mistake, that might be what opens the door for Togo.
And as all this is happening, I just want to give a quick mention that Tixier is close to Valenteus. I don't know if he's able to try and effect a pass, but as we take a glance at him, you can see it's down to a quarter of a second between them. So Audris, who's honestly probably used to running away from the field, is not able to do that today.
I'm happy you caught that, because I was just about to make a point about it as well. It's been, call it the last few laps that Tixier is just kind of slowly reeled it in. And I mean, even that last lap, our leader 24.0, Tixier a 23.8. So a couple tenths to the good. As look at the drifting from the number 4. Togo Hisada manages to hang on to it with excellent car control and gets the pass done.
Just incredible. So he's not only ahead of Sequeiro, but he's ahead of Kaki as well. He's going to take it too far in. I wonder if he overheated those tires a bit. And now he's lost out to Kaki once again. He sees Sequeiro trying to size him up, but now Leo's got trouble. Here comes Verbruggen coming up into Hawthorne. He won't be able to quite get there as Leo takes it in as far as he dares, and he'll hold on to 8th for now.
I think that maybe Togo's car is just a little bit too loose today. I thought that the way that he lost a bunch of time earlier was a mistake going out onto the front straightaway, and then there again going into what is turn number 4 was just in too deep, and the car was really, really loose on him. I wonder if he's just not completely satisfied with the machine that he's driving today.
Made a little bit of contact with Leo coming through Druids as well, so it was very argy-bargy up into that turn. Kevin Verbruggen has been watching this group for quite some time. Now he's trying to get in the mix when he sees those chances, but it slipped through his fingers this time. Is he going to let it happen a second time if they start to fight again?
I really enjoy watching these onboards. Look at more yaw angle out of the car, a couple right in front of Kevin, and I'm not surprised that is Togo Hisada just using the back end of the car to really steer it around this racetrack. But you had mentioned the overheating of those rear tires. If you slide them too much, you get them way outside of those temperature ranges, and it can almost seem impossible to cool them back down.
You know, amazingly, you had talked on the first lap about drivers making progress. We haven't seen much since then. Cam Porter's still the biggest mover and sitting in 20th with a gain of 5 right now. Nobody else has moved higher or lower than that in the entire field. They are very stuck today.
Right on board with Gary Ho, who's trying to get a pass done on Ricardo Ruiz in the number 13 car. We always like to show off these drivers that come and log into their link and basically show off what their cockpit is like, what their sim rig is like, and I'm always impressed by Gary Ho. He's got the full motion rig, but I think the one that we were watching earlier was also a full motion rig as well. So I think a few of these 49 guys definitely invested deep into these cars.
Very much so. Kevin Verbruggen is invested in the pass on Sequeiro. Can he get it done this time? Yes, he can. Decisive move up into Druids. Leo can't fight it, and now Kevin is into 8th.
Nice pass. I think that turn number, call it 2 up there at the top of the hill, Druids, is a great passing opportunity. I'd mentioned that turn number 1 is probably the most difficult corner on this entire place. It leads to lots of mistakes, and there was a little bit wide out of Kevin Verbruggen, so the pass that he just made is now under threat. Sequeiro is going to look to the inside, but there's just not a huge brake zone here to really do anything with it. He's just going to follow back in line, see if he can maybe force Verbruggen into a mistake.
Looks very close. Verbruggen is definitely testing the limits of the track, going as far out as he can. Has to make sure he doesn't dip a wheel, especially here coming up and over Sheen, where you've just got that grass and then the barrier right to the outside. There's not much to save you. And we're checking back in with the front because it's still sitting at 0.3 of a second. And we're not even, I think we're barely a quarter of the way through this race at this point. So there's still a lot to go. And that's not even taking into account, we could hit lap traffic later on. That could play a part. That was a big look coming up into turn 2 by Seb.
Oh, and he has actually got a good drive off of the corner here. The number 1's going to go defensive right in the middle of the racetrack. That compromises his line. This could be an opportunity for Tixier headed down in towards turn number 4. We've seen drivers get so loose on the outside. He edges up towards that rear axle, but Valenteus is just able to keep the momentum around the outside and capitalize, keep the lead.
He's really got him on the ropes now, but he was not able to deliver the finishing blow. And the more they battle, the more Oye behind them is going to start to gain. He's been kind of hovering. He hasn't been right on top of him, but he definitely is a lot closer than he was before that battle.
And to kind of expand on that point, it's been a few weeks since we've seen Oye, especially up at the front of the field here. So I welcome back that white number 2 car, and he is just now joining the party, like you said. So the more Andreas and Seb battle, it just draws in that 3rd car. I think that Jorge Nieva is probably a little bit too far back to really close it in if it becomes a 3-car battle. I think that this is looking like a good point stay for Tixier.
Down to the braking of turn 1 again for Valenteus. He's got to be watching those mirrors. He knows that Seb is there, but where will he try and dive it in? He'll be wise to any moves through this portion of the lap where he attempted it last time. Seb doesn't go for it. Didn't quite get the same mistakes out of the 1 car, but he still hovers very close in behind him. It does look like that 7 maybe just slightly quicker. Not vastly, but just enough that he's an issue.
I haven't talked about it in a few weeks now, but I think that Seb Tixier's strongest point of his driving style, at least in these cars that I've seen, it is his brake pedal pressure. He's just able to take it that little bit deeper than anybody else. I've asked him about it before, and he says maybe, it's from his real-world training, just he knows how to work that pedal pressure a little bit better. But I think whenever I look at Tixier's passes, it's always in the brake zone with huge aggression, and he always manages to get it stopped.
He's very, very good at that. It's impressive what he's able to do out there as we check back in with Cocky now, back in fifth or sixth position, fighting for fifth, really. Ove Trengere just in front of him. Ove has certainly shown he loves to fight himself, so I think this is going to be an entertaining battle if he does manage to get side by side with him. Don't think we'll see anything coming up into the first corner this time, but any little slip up from the six, and he'll probably be pouncing. You talked about the car sliding. That's something that Ove is notorious for. He loves a loose car.
When I was taught racing, loose is fast, but you have to be able to manage it, right? You can't be drifting out there. If you have so much yaw angle in it, you're not driving forward or just sliding sideways through it. However, if you're not turning at all, it's scrubbing those front tires. So kind of to your point, Joe, I think when I see a loose car, it means it's going to be fast, but it's up to that driver to manage how much angle it's got in those slides.
Down to almost a tenth of a second once again. Seb Tixier sniffing the fumes coming out of the exhaust pipes of Audrius Valenteus as he gets dangerously close, but there's no place to go coming through the swift triple right-hander here on the back stretch of the circuit. So he has to back out for the time being. Looks like we've lost our first driver. Luca in the 28 car seems to have retired. Not sure what caused that, but now we're down to only 28 drivers running as we come around to complete lap 12. We definitely have a fight for the win out here on our hands. They still have a ways to go before they get to that lap traffic. David Muse is going to be the first one, but it'll be another few laps before they reach him.
Cross over that halfway point now, and I wonder if Tixier is starting to lay the pressure on because they were able to kind of escape out of the clutches of Zamayoa just a touch back there, who's in third place, right? It was only about a quarter of a second between second and third, and now it's about 3/4 of a second. So that allows Tixier a little bit of breathing room to try to make a move for the lead without having to worry about looking in his mirror, seeing if somebody's going to try to capitalize on him being on the outside. So I wonder if this is the time that Tixier really starts to lay it on.
That's a good point, and we'll talk about that in a second. Here's what happens with Ruiz and Luca, I believe. Coming up into Hawthorne. Oh, gets in the back of him. Hops four wheels off into the air. Ruiz looks like he hits the wall. Didn't see Luca, if that was him, hit anything. So not sure why he is retired in the meantime. Very unusual incident. Yeah, I was going to say they've got space behind Zamayoa, but not back to him. So if he would just drop off, they'd be free to fight, but he's kind of stuck in a very difficult spot here.
Checking in on our battle for what is the top 10, right? This is Steve Morris as well as Marco Salgado. John Olsen is that third car in line. And I actually think we just had a problem. Yeah, Seb Tixier went off in turn number 1.
Wow, that was sudden. Just outbraked himself, made his own mistake. Unforced error for the number 7. He's down to third with a bit of time to make up. And I tell you what, I went back and watched on my screen, and it was extremely close to being disaster for him.
That's what I was just noticing as well. I'm sure we'll get a replay queued up here in just a moment, but you called it spot on. He just missed the braking marker going into turn number 1, and I think he was maybe a foot, maybe 2 feet from that tire wall on driver's left. If anything, I think the gravel saved him.
Slowed him down just enough. So now Oye has kind of an open goal if he does have the speed to catch up to Valenteus. It didn't look like he did before, but you never know. Maybe now he'll have that extra impetus knowing that it's a potential win that's on the cards. If he can keep up with and pass Audrius, the impressive 9,000 iRating driver who just seems to show up and dominate and then leave.
I think the thing that's screaming about this mistake that we're about to watch here on this replay, watch the silver number 7 car here in second place, just misses the brake marker, drives it straight off the track, and look at how close he was to the wall right there. Brings it back on, but he lost second place in the process. He's now 2.5 seconds back from that lead battle that he was a part of. He's going to have to climb it all back, and that points difference, that points delta between a potential win and third place is big time when you look at the championship.
Yeah, I think it's a 9-point
swing. Oh, there goes Verbruggen.
Third. Oh, no. He was doing so good, and I guess that's commentator's curse. I said he's consistent. Not today, unfortunately. He'll fall down to 12th, loses about 3 or 4 spots with that mistake.
Yeah, it's a tough deal. Tough deal. You know, you work your whole race forward, and then just a little bit of a mistake, but that's how racing is. As we check back in on Nicola Kocky up here, right on the gearbox of Trenggrade. He's been trying to get this pass done for what seems like this entire race so far. Lots of rotation out of that number 5 car. Now down to the inside. That was aggressive. Trenggrade saw him coming, left the door open, but they both get a poor run off of the corner. If anything, Togo Asada is trying to capitalize.
How did he not run into them? That was great heads up by Ove to give him just enough space, and he didn't lose the position either. Not just to Nicola, but Togo Hisada watching. You know he's going to try and snatch that up as soon as he sees an opportunity. Another slide from Kocky. The car seems to have, again, lost a little bit of grip. These tires can so overheat with ease if you push them too hard. Nearly makes contact again to the back of Ove Trenggrade, but manages to stay off of him.
I know that this is an incredibly close battle, but I got to chuckle a little bit at watching the sim rig over there in the bottom right, because there's so many small overcrests and undulations here at Brands Hatch. It's almost like he's just kind of in a boat over there in the living room, just riding the waves, isn't it?
It is making a lot of movement, that is for sure. And coming up into one of these little compressions here into Hawthorne. The track then levels out briefly before it's going to drop again down through Westfield and into Dingledale. This is a portion that's not really straight, and at the same time you're trying to line up for the blind sheen over this crest.
And this is where Nicola was so fast. He's really got another good run. He's looking for the same move down to the inside. Can he capitalize this time? It's still a drag race off, but he edges ahead of Trenggrade. Trenggrade's going to look to the inside. Nicola closes the door. Here comes Togo Asada trying to capitalize on the mistake from Trenggrade.
Surprised Ove did not cover it off. He left the door open after he saw it last time. He's going to be wheel-to-wheel for a second time in one lap as Togo comes around, tries to cut down, and they're coming through lap traffic. Muse in the wrong place at the wrong time, and Togo has to lift.
There is a little bit of contact between the nose cone, and now Hisada just in way too deep into turn number 2 at the top of the hill, locks up. It has to go off of the racetrack, so what is a frustrating day for this number 4 continues.
I mean, you talked about points mistakes. 3rd in the points coming into this one, and now Togo's all the way down into 8th. This has been just a miserable day for that number 4 car. He started it in 5th, and he's lost 3 positions since then.
I'd really be curious to know what the deal is, because usually, even when Hisada doesn't get practice, he's able to figure it out in the race. Today, it just seems like he's lost out there.
Speaking of lost, I went to check back on our leaders. Tixier hasn't really gained that time back. He's still about 2.5 seconds back, so I'm not sure what's going on. And instead, Oye's cut it down to about half a second. So that battle for the lead is not over. It's just changed faces a little bit as we stick with Ove Trenggrade, and he has managed to rebuff at least Togo Hisada, but now he's going to try and re-overtake Nicola Kocky.
And as we watch the battle up here for the lead, I think that Valenteus is probably the faster of the two in terms of the outright pace. However, I do see small mistakes out of the number 1. Maybe that's what was allowing Tixier to constantly close it in on Andreas earlier, and now that Tixier isn't in between these two drivers, it's now Zamioa's turn to go up there and start capitalizing on these little tiny small minuscule slow moments from that number 1 that's shrinking that gap.
I wonder if Valenteus knows it's so hard to pass here and he's going to use that to his advantage a little bit, but we'll watch that in a little while later because Nicola Kocky up ahead of Ove Trangerade. Had to get his elbows out a little bit to try and make that pass. Will Ove return the favor and give him a little nudge in one of the corners?
This corner right here that they're coming up to, this is where Nicola was so fast and was able to carry more speed than Trangerade. It's actually himself that had a little bit of a bobble at apex there. So if anything, that black and orange number 6 car actually closed in the gap just slightly. And when I say closed in, maybe half a car length, was able to close it in. But I think that's a sign of a good racing driver. How do you handle yourself after you get past? Do you let that car run off into the distance, or do you fight back?
Is taking the fastest lap of the race in the meantime, so he's trying to pick up speed and doing a good job of it. Coming down through the compression here as we go through Pilgrim's Rise and up into Druids. There's a big look from Trangerade, and he's going to be able to hold side by side, at least temporarily, before he gets rebuffed by Nicola.
Had to lift out of the throttle just a touch to basically not run into the back of that bright green helmet that's directly in front. And Nicola really wide on entry, but I think it's going to serve him okay on exit. I don't think it was a perfect corner by any means. You definitely saw Trangerade start to close that gap. This is almost like one of those battles, like who wants the clean air? Because it seems like either one, whoever's in second, is actually the quicker of the two cars.
Yeah, which is a bit strange. Not really a lot of long straightaways where you can use the slipstream to catch up to the car ahead, but I guess it's fast enough that second car may be getting a bit of an advantage, or maybe it's just a lot harder under pressure around here, more sliding as the cars come over through Sheen and then into Sterling, but it looks like Nicola will retain that 5th spot. What can Ove Trangerade do? He tried it into Druids last time. Will he do the same thing again?
I just saw something really neat while watching that in-car camera there, because he's wearing virtual reality. As we watch John Olsen here, he's going to try to get a pass on Steve Morris down into turn number 1. We've seen this be a danger area, but back to my point, that was virtual reality that Nicola was wearing. And when he gets out onto the straightaway or on a corner exit, he looks down to the right-hand side. He's physically looking in that rearview mirror to see where his competitor is.
Yeah, I love how you can really kind of see and know where the drivers are looking thanks to these VR headsets, and how it allows you to see all fully around you. In the meantime, back to that fight once again. Ove so tight behind him, but Hawthorne is such a fast right-hander. There's just not really much chance to try and outbreak your rival. Maybe in a Westfield? Oh, he thought about it, but decided to back out.
I think this section of the racetrack is just so gosh dang cool. I keep calling it a roller coaster ride, and in these Formula cars, that's exactly what it is. Oh, Trangerade just a little bit off apex there. You had to lift out of the gas coming out of the corner exit, so that cost him a little bit of time. Nicola Cocky can kind of breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief right there, not have to worry about the pressure for maybe 1 or 2 corners.
That part of the track, it always scared me because there's, like I said, there's just no room to the outside. And the Armco is right there, and it's all these fast corners that you have to be picture perfect to try and nail. Once again, a little wide there for Ove Trangerade. All of them cannot overstep their bounds through many parts of this track.
And I know I'm rambling a little bit about this final sector as we get a replay here. Looks like Bruno had a little bit of an issue going down the hill here directly in front of him. Oh, no, that's the number 24 car of Damian Struthers also involved in it. But back to my long-winded point about the racetrack, what I think is cool about Brands Hatch is a lot of this elevation, it's actually compressions where you want it in the corner to give you extra grip. They have a lot of camber built into the racetrack. So yes, even though this final sector is very, very fast, you've got the confidence that the car is actually making grip as well.
Kevin's caught up to the back of another train of cars, not the same one he was battling before. This time it's Salgado, Olsen, and Maurice. So even if he gets by all 3 of them, he's still got some work to do. From there's a little mistake from Salgado. There's one with ease for Bruggen, now up to 11th.
And you see how close John is to Steve directly in front. That last lap, it was almost identical, so call it deja vu. Going to try a little bit of an over-under here through this very, very final turn number 9, but it's just so tough to capitalize on any sort of slipstream. Let's see if he makes a late lunge, a really late lane change there into turn number 1. They're both in deep. How they didn't make contact, I have no idea. And now here comes that baby blue number 8 to the inside of turn number 2. Verbruggen capitalizes.
And in the meantime, we're watching the battle on screen between Kaki and Trangerade coming down into Surtees. Ove going to get to the inside this time. Nicola cannot shut the door. He is there, and he is through. Ove to P5.
Nice move back from Trangerade there. I got to watch what's on the feed rather than what's on my screen, and hopefully Togo Hisada maybe sticks his nose in there too. He's been pretty passive in this 3-car battle here. Let's see how it develops.
Sticking with him. Oh, and a car off just in front of him. That's Damien Struthers, who you mentioned before. And I'm not sure if he was trying to pull off to the side. If so, that was a little extreme. But he was fully off the course, nearly into the gearbox of the Norwegian. And Nicola Kaki is going to try and lay it on thick here in the last few laps. We're already down to 3 laps to go. They're going by fast.
Yeah, I think in fact, yeah, they've already clicked it by 2 laps to go now because the leader just crossed the line. So I just call it the sand is running out of the hourglass coming up to turn number 1. Let's see if Trangerade can keep it mistake-free. Nicola really sends it in on the entry, gets the car to stick in the middle of the corner. I don't know how he did that, and now he pokes the nose to the inside. Trangerade leaves him room, but the number 6 is going to have the exit.
I love the trust between these two. They race so close and so hard with one another. Tries for the over-under, but it's not quite there for the Italian. Will he do another move coming up into Surtees to get payback into this left-hand uphill corner? No, he cannot. Watch out behind him. Leo Sequeiro is still in there and a real threat.
Yeah, that's Leo Sequeiro. I called it Togo Hisada earlier, but it's definitely Sequeiro in the number 9 car. And if anything, I think I just saw Togo Hisada slip back to 11th place now. So the day continues to slip rearward for Hisada.
Man, just a gutting run for him. He's managing to get by Salgado, I think, just now. But we stay over here because this has been an ongoing story all throughout the race. Nicola Kaki versus Ove Trangerade. And if I know both of them, they are grinning ear to ear. They are relishing this.
That's what's the best part about racing with your friends, racing with people every single week. You get to know them, and it's all about that battle. When you come out the other side and you can talk about it and smile about it, that is why we race.
Let's stay here for now. I can tell you that the white flag is out. Valenteus, though, is leading by 1.5 seconds. I think the traffic has helped him out in the latter part of the lap again, almost pushing him through the corner. Kaki is right there, but he can't seem to do anything with it.
Trangerade with a really, really good corner exit just kind of puts himself at a stiff arm distance between himself and Kaki, and then through that turn number 4, another mistake out of that green helmet. So Trangerade continues to extend that gap.
Not many opportunities from here. It's going to be so tough to try and overtake, but we have seen passes, remember, into Sterling, which is where we see Valenteus heading right now. It was definitely not a for sure thing for the number 1, but he's going to add to his tally of wins that he seems to just crop up and take with ease, coming out of Clark Corner and to the Brabham Straight. Your victor today is Audrius Valenteus here at Brands Hatch.
Oye comes across the line in 2nd place, celebrates his podium with a little bit of wiggles, just like we saw our leader. Tixier 3rd, Nieva 4th, and Trangerade does hang on to a top 5 finish, holding off that green helmet of Nicola Kaki.
Oh, it's going to be close for 9th between Olsen and Hisada, side by side to the line. And Hisada throws it into the barrier. Not sure if that's frustration or what, but he certainly didn't have the best day we've seen out of him. About 36 thousandths of a second at the line between them. Let's check in farther down in the field. We haven't got to see some of these close battles where Jan Steffen is fighting with Cam Porter for P17.
Cam was one of our biggest movers here today. He's gone up 8 positions, and now he's going to basically settle for 17th as they cross the line, finish today's race. I'm actually pretty impressed with how many cars were able to stay on the lead lap here, given how short this place is.
Yeah, me too. 23 drivers on the lead lap. And more than that, I thought attrition was going to be pretty heavy, but we only lost, it looks like, 4 drivers today. So great results from our field, as Audrius Valenteus was the cream of the crop today, taking home the victory on that top spot. Zamaloa going to be finishing behind him in P2, along with Seb Tixier in third, and Jorge Nieva losing another couple precious points to Seb in fourth. It'll be Trangarade with an impressive battle to P5, Cocky in sixth, and Sequeiro in seventh. Steve Morris winds up eighth, with John Olsen ninth, each of them gaining 3 spots in a track where it's so hard to pass. Toko Hisada losing those positions and rounding out your top 10.
11th page was Marco Antonio Lopez Salgado. Kevin Verbruggen finishes in 12th. Gary Ho in 13th. Laust Olsen to finish 14th. Robert Plumley back here in 15th. Bjorn Ackerman had a good day, went up a few positions to finish in 16th. Cam Porter, as we mentioned, was our biggest mover today, +8 to finish in 17th. Jan Steffen down here in 18th. Matthew Maudsley 19th, and Mauro Micheletti rounds out the top 20.
Last few on the lead lap is Berdera, Tuba, and Harnvey. From there, a lap down, it was Martin and Muse in 24th and 25th. You've got Struthers as one of our first DNFs, followed by Bruno Ruiz and Luca. Like I said, very few cars that fell out of this race, considering how tough this track is. Looks like we've got our third place finisher ready to talk to us, Seb Tixier. Let's have a chat and see what he thinks happened out there on the track, because definitely some uncharacteristic mistakes from Seb today. A P3, you still finished ahead of your title rival, Seb, but we were kind of confused. What happened out there? It looked like there was a few unforced errors.
Sorry, can you repeat?
It looked like you had a few unforced errors out on track today. What was going on? Was the car just not handling well?
No, everything was perfect. I think I was like maybe not faster than Audrius, but I could see he made some little mistakes. And I just did one mistake only. I think I touched a bit the grass, and I locked the left front. And then I was in the sandbox, and then after that I lost a bit my concentration. But before that, I was good. It's funny because I was talking with Mick just before the race, and I was Mick, I don't know, I feel slow today, and and then I was managed to following Audrius. So I'm quite happy. I finished before Jorge, so for the championship it's okay. Audrius 3-0 and 1-6, so I don't think he can compete for the championship. So good result.
Well, I'm glad you're happy with it. And yeah, I have to say, we were impressed with the speed when you were up in second place. It looked like you were a real threat for Audrius. If you hadn't have made that error, do you think you could have passed him? Because it looked really tough to overtake today.
Here it's almost impossible, or you can dive bomb turn one, but when I was following, I don't know if it was on the broadcast, but I made a little move on Druids, turn 2, because he did a little mistake there. So I was seeing he was doing some mistakes here and there, and he was not doing the fastest lap. And when I did my mistake and he had more gap to P2, I think he was more relaxed and he started to do PB and the fastest lap. But if I was just behind him, maybe I could have, because I can do some aggressive attack too. It could have been fun to see how it goes, but I wouldn't have done something crazy because of the championship. But maybe next week.
Yeah, we're seeing a bit of that battle on our screens. And Joey had mentioned your penchant for breaking deep into the corners. Again, congratulations on a podium, and hopefully we'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
Seb Tixier finishing P3. Now, we also have one of the drivers that was a little farther down the field, 17th for Cam Porter. However, as Joey has caught up with him, he was also the biggest mover today.
Yeah, Cam Porter, congratulations on being the hard charger today.
Oh, well, thanks. Didn't even realize it. That race went all right for me. I told Craig last week that Brands Hatch is not my best track, and obviously it showed today with my pace. Unfortunately, I kind of blew my qualifying, so I was starting a little farther back than I would normally, but gosh, there's some talented guys that show up here every week, so big props to the community and just those fast guys that lay down the super fast laps, just lap after lap.
Well, so you were one of the very, very few cars to make up several positions, and I noticed on that opening lap you actually made up, I think, 3 or 4. Was it just kind of aggression on your part? The seas open? How did you manage that?
I was a little, by my own standards, I was a little bit more aggressive than I am normally at the beginning. I, especially just at the launch, I kind of cut over on somebody pretty close, and apologies to whoever that was. I don't remember who that was, but yeah, I was just trying to position my car in a way that maybe, take advantage of, some guys going a little bit wide. There's a lot of traffic, obviously, on the first lap, so sometimes you can sort of inch your way in spots that you wouldn't normally try to get your car into. But for the rest of the race, I just kind of tried to play it safe, had a good battle with a couple of fellas, Tobias Arnby as well as Jan Stefan. I had a close race with, so thanks guys for putting on a good show.
What's the next race for Cam Porter? Is it IMSA Vintage tomorrow?
Unfortunately, I can't make the IMSA Vintage slots due to other commitments these days. My next race will probably be Tuesday night. I usually race Porsche Cup on Tuesday nights.
Well, good luck out there, and we'll see you next weekend for some more 49 action.
Thanks, Joey. Looking forward to it, man.
That was Cam Porter, our hard charger today, finishing up in 17th position.
Glad to see him have a good day. He was kind of needing that, I think, after some recent happenings on track for him. Before we go, we do want to mention one more time that if you see this and think you want to give this a shot, you can join iRacing. If you're a new member, 50% off a year or 2 year subscriptions. So check out their Black Friday sale. Take advantage of it. If you're already a member, now is the time to renew. Remember, it adds on to your existing remaining subscription. So 25% off for a year or 2 years is still an incredible deal and worth taking advantage of. In the meantime, we want to give a big thanks to our team, Joey, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. Next race going to be at another British track, Snetterton. It'll be at the 300 version of the track on November 16th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. Up next today, the IMSA Vintage Series goes to a brand new track here on iRacing, the Saxon Ring, and that'll be at noon Eastern. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.